So this year, 2026, what I wanted to do is maybe start a little bit of video content, trying to dive in a little bit more into uh, in depth into stories. When I'm reporting stories, sometimes I can't necessarily dive in as deep as I'd like. It's just the way that stories go. Some of the stuff coming out is opinion. I don't necessarily want to start writing opinions. I think you can opine in your writing a little bit, but you kind of have to do that with informed kind of information and stuff like that. Um, so what I want to do here is maybe just look a little bit more at what the Admiral Bulldog, his championship TI ring auction. This was quite some big news that was coming out at the start of the new year. The interesting thing about this story is I think it's the first time that a TI ring has come up for sale. Obviously, in case you don't know, when you win TI, when you win the biggest Dota tournament in the world, formerly the most prestigious and biggest prize pool event in the world, you get a championship ring. This is something that's kind of unique and inspired by um, American sports. It's not something that a lot of European sports or sports around the rest of the world do. It is something that kind of started in. I actually don't know where it started. I believe it's probably something that's come from NFL football, and then that kind of trickled down. And then there's championship rings for the NBA and even college and even high school football over in America. I believe baseball has them, and then it starts to go abroad, primarily again in the kind of American coded sports. So you're kind of talking like baseball in Japan, you're getting a championship ring. You might even, you might even get a high school championship baseball ring in Japan. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked into that too deep. But anyway, when Valve was doing its TI, uh, it wanted to reward players beyond just the Aegis. The Aegis is already, in my opinion, one of the greatest trophies in esports. I think it just looks great. It's unique. It's a big plate you lift up. It's fantastic. It's a great visual. They wanted to give them some championship rings. Being an American company, based in Seattle, obviously, it makes sense. They want to bring that kind of sporting caliber to the event. So they started giving out these rings. These rings are pretty nice. And one of the first people to win them, one of the first 15 people to win them, in fact, AdmiralBulldog, who was with Alliance, that's Henrik Anberg. I've probably butchered his name. Bulldog is probably what most people know him as. He put up his championship ring for auction on eBay on January the 3rd. That's the Saturday that's just gone by. And it quickly got a lot of attention. It appeared on Reddit. It was on a lot of social media. A lot of news sites were reporting it. I didn't pick it up until Monday because I was taking some time off because it's New Year. And anyway, when I did, I wanted to kind of pick it up, add a little bit more context here in my article, and then beyond that, that's sort of a little bit more opinion, maybe, on why I think this is coming to sale, why I don't think it will sell. I don't think this is going to sell. The pricing, the problems with esports memorabilia, and why it's significant. So I got my article here. Henrik has put this up for sale. It's on eBay. It was generating a bit of buzz. It was actually originally announced as part of an IRL stream that Bulldog was doing. So this lends into maybe a theory I want to talk about a little bit later, that I don't necessarily believe this was put on sale to sell. I think that it might be a little bit of a stunt. I think Bulldog's a smart enough streamer that he knows that when you do these big things, oh, we've got a big announcement later, it's just part of the streaming thing. I think that maybe a little bit of this is a stunt. It's definitely got him in the news. It's definitely got him up there being talked about, which is it's big for you when you're a streamer. So essentially, the starting price is listed at 70,000. I think that what's probably happened is he's had a valuation first. I don't think you go into this willy-nilly. I don't think you go into it with a price that you make. You go and get this valued. Now, do I think he got an accurate valuation? I think what he probably got was a material valuation from maybe from a jeweler or a collectibles person who maybe didn't understand the esports implications. I think he probably got a valuation, and this is just from my kind of estimations, a little bit of research I've done, and I'll go into what I kind of know about this a little bit later. But I think he probably got a valuation of some. This is going to sound like a stupid ballpark, but around 30 to 50,000, maybe a little bit lower than that. That's a dollar value. He would likely have got this. I think he still lives in Sweden, probably in Swedish krona. It's Swedish krona. Sorry if that's wrong. And I imagine that what he's done is he's taken that figure and he's kind of aped it up a little bit more, and then he's probably got this figure in mind that he wants for it, which is probably 100, maybe 150. I mean, that's kind of where you'd want to see it go. It's a significant thing. If it's worth more, I think in his tweet he mentioned, like down here in this tweet, we've got this tweet up here as well. He believes the monetary value exceeds the sentimental value, and I could see that. I think that's a justifiable thing to say, especially if he does get this kind of post 100,000 price. But again, I do not know if that's going to happen. I don't think it will. But at that lower ball, that kind of 30 to 50,000 that I was thinking, I believe that's probably the kind of rate you're looking at for something about this, because this is a, from what we know about the listing, let me just quickly get the listing up. This is, I don't know what material this is. I assume it's silver. I assume this is silver, which does bring the price down again, but I believe these are real diamonds. I think that Valve does not mess around much with these. This is kind of a, it's, I don't know the most about jewelry. I spent a bit of time, like, looking into this stuff. I believe these are diamonds, and then these are kind of diamonds inlaid as well. It's not just like silver. All this engraving. I love this ring, by the way. It is kind of beautiful. I mean, like, you know, if I had to spare 100, 200 grand around, I'd be looking at this. I love the engraving. It does need a good polish, probably. I think that he even admits that in the listing. Yeah, the black material comes off. Oh, interesting. So I think that there is a inlaid glaze that goes on this, and I think that I can't remember how that's done. I believe it might even be done with some kind of chemical reaction rather than like a material being put on. They just kind of use a chemical reaction to do that. Anyway, so if you are looking at like a multiple diamond ring, custom made, all that kind of stuff, you start to look at like 12, 15, 20,000, like just the way it is. Is that what they're worth? It's a whole different discussion. And then you start to get into, because it's a unique piece and that kind of stuff, this is where these 20 to 30, 40, 50 valuation. And then I think what he's done is he's thrown some money on top of that, and it's the 70,000 number that he's come to. I think that beyond that, what we're kind of doing here is like, I think that he might have a starting price of 70,000 and a reserve. I've forgotten how eBay works with that. I don't know if your starting price is your reserve or if you can set a separate reserve. I believe you can set a separate reserve. So if you set a separate reserve, it might be more than this. It might be 80, it might be 90. He might, and then he has a buy it now price of 9. Anyway, yeah. And what is quite special about this ring, and I kind of went over it in some tweets, is that from my guess, I think there are only around 80 of this. I did a little bit of calculation on that, so it's not so much of a guess. Obviously, there's been 14 TIs. You'd think that would mean there are 70 because of it being 5 each, but like just down here, as we see, we have one for the coach in Team Spirit. I don't think every coach got one. I think that that was not the case. I think that only some of the coaches got there. So I'd put the number of them that actually exist. It's probably about 5 or 6 for each TI, a total of about 80, maybe 90 if they were giving them out to these coaches a bit more willy-nilly than I expected. Then what's interesting about that is that the total number of people that own them is, I think less than 50. 55 could be the number, maybe something like that, because it's difficult to tell again because we don't know the coaches. Multiple time winners. So, for instance, if you're on that remarkable OG team, No Tail, Seb, they got 2 of these. If you're Miposhka, you got 3 of them. If you're Yatoro, you got 3 of them. If you're Lal, you've got 2 or 1. I forget how long Lal's been with that roster and how much he's won, but he's a great player as well. And so it comes down to there's not a lot of these around, and that should increase the value. But that's where we get into kind of our first problem, is that this number, this amount, is astronomical. This is an astronomical amount of money for an esports fan and for a piece of esports memorabilia. I think that for a piece of esports memorabilia, this might be the most expensive piece of esports memorabilia. Now, there is a caveat to that, that there is in fact a trophy for Pokemon Unite that sold for some huge amount of money. I believe it was around 34,000. I will actually have the figure up soon. But obviously this exceeds that if it sells. Now, I don't think the market for this is very big. I think that the amount of people that would want this is very low. And I think that we're looking maybe at I'd think maybe 100 people is generous. The reason I say that is that it's not just having the money. I think there's lots of wealthy people out there. There's lots of people who could afford to make a purchase like this. I think it's the knowledge, how many people who are in a knowledgeable space in esports to know the value of this and the inherent kind of story behind it, and then who cares among them? I think you're into a very small number of people. I think what you're looking at is maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 is charitable. Maybe we're looking at obviously maybe we're looking at the Saudi prince who bought the ring. No, who bought the huge amounts of battle pass stuff. That's maybe your target. Maybe that's who Bulldog wants to sell it to. Now, do I think he wants to sell it? That's another question. I don't think this is a genuine attempt to sell this ring. The reason I don't believe it is because this is a public auction, and I don't think it's. I don't think that's the case. I think that what we've got here is a promotional kind of thing. He's doing this to hype up his stream, and of course that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And the other reason comes actually from someone who I found through an earlier piece of research I did. So when in 2024, so in 2024, I read an article that is unfortunately now off of the internet, or at least I can no longer access it, on the esports memorabilia market. And I found out essentially that the market for esports memorabilia is it's fucking garbage. People don't give a shit about this stuff. If you look at like sports and stuff like that, the kind of the pricing is pretty high. You know, you're talking about like thousands of dollars for match-worn jerseys, and this is you know, most sports. I mean, like match-worn Premier League shirts are selling for a lot. Uh, the only person whose stuff makes any money is like Faker. Um, his stuff is sells for a decent amount. That's like 70. What's that? Like 70. Well, that's not even a lot. So, you know, like like let's have a quick look. Like if we've got anything that's remotely close to that. Again, portraits and photo packs for Faker. So look at these. If you can see that this is Canadian dollars, I believe, but you know, it's not terrible comparison. I don't know why it's in Canadian dollars. I don't know what's happened here. But look at that. These are getting up there, but like it's the Faker stuff that's worth anything. Outside of that, you start to get a lot of drop off. And even like some of the larger things, there were some photo sets, Polaroids, signed Polaroids of Faker that went on the market last year or the year before. And the price that people were looking for was about 1400, not 1400 even, sorry, beg my pardon, around $14,000. I don't even think they sold. So those are the things that are kind of valued. The other thing is the Dota 2 mini Aegises. Now, the reason for them being quite expensive, like the sets can go for a few thousand, something like that, or $700, like several $100, beg my pardon. Given that you're getting to like in the past you had to get to level 1000 on a battle pass, you are spending hundreds of dollars or spending a huge amount of time to get that mini Aegis. So the value comes more from the price that's already been sunk into it and the exclusivity, and then the kind of effort if you did kind of play those games. Don't think many people play those games to get those mini Aegises, to be honest, though. Final thing is kind of like collectible cards. The completed packs go for quite a lot. I don't think individual cards go for tremendous amounts of money. The point being that esports memorabilia is not a huge market, but the people that I have kind of found that are knowledgeable about this are people like Esports Collectibles, who I recommend following on Twitter if you're interested in this kind of stuff. He does a great job of following this kind of thing. He even commented on the AdmiralBulldog tweet saying that he needs to reach out to Ken Golden and Golden Collectibles. Now, the reason he's saying that is because the highest paying esports collectible ever sold, which was the thing I previously mentioned, the Pokemon Unite Champions, that was on Netflix King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch, the show with Ken Golden and Golden Collectibles. Now, I do think that Pokemon Unite trophy, which sold for, I believe it was 2 items. They were 2 trophies for the Unite Championships, and they sold for 32. I got the number here. It's $32,600. The reason they sold, I think, is more to do with the fact that they were Pokemon collectibles than that they were esports collectibles. I don't like. I love you, Pokemon Unite. I think it's a great little esport that they got going on there, and I got friends who work the scene. I don't think anyone cares enough about it to spend that much on the trophies outside of the fact that they are for Pokemon. And I believe those Pokemon were Pikachu's as well, which really helps. It's like a solid. I mean, okay, yeah, I've got this guy. Like, let me just get rid of these. Look at of course. Um, these are great bits of Pokemon memorabilia. Are they great pieces of esports memorabilia? I mean, they don't really have anything to do with it. So what have we got going on then? Esports memorabilia is not that valuable. As I've kind of gone over. Bulldog selling this is probably a little bit of a stunt. If he turns around and gets 100,000 from it, he doesn't care, because then he's just got 100,000. I also don't think he's desperate for money. I genuinely think that he's not like worried about that. And the reason I don't think he's worried about that for money is because he was quite recently had a little bit of a payday, if I believe, in December. I did a little bit of coverage on this Games of the Future. So let's have a quick look here. Essentially, it was going to be a little bit of a celebrity kind of game vibe at this event. The problem with this event is that it has a lot of connections to some controversial people. The Russian government, the UAE, the Chinese government. So if you don't want to show support for those, you don't want to be there. Now, I believe Bulldog and a few of the other former Alliance people were actually ended up attending that. I believe, yes. So we've got here Loader, AdmiralBulldog, Ake. So I think they got a little bit of a payday for this. So I don't feel they're I don't feel they are too worried about finances. I think they've probably got a nice little fucking payday from going to Abu Dhabi or for Games of the Future. So I don't think he's worried about money. I think this is a streaming thing. I think this is a get some promotion, get some eyes on that. And the other thing is like, and this is kind of a point I want to make about esports memorabilia. Something I did in my 2024 article, which again is no longer accessible. I will try and see if I can maybe republish that or something like that, get it out there. I don't think esports is doing a great job of protecting its actual collectibles. So imagine if you could get the mouse and keyboard or the mouse mats that were used by Faker in the 2013 League of Legends World Championship, his first like title. Imagine if you could get PCs from the original TI at Gamescom. I would hazard a guess that that stuff doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It's in a landfill. It might be in a storage locker somewhere. It's very charitable. I think it's gone. And the other thing is the other problem is that the time is not there. Like the time hasn't passed. The people like in the kind of sports memorabilia world, there was the huge news that there was a Babe Ruth rookie baseball card that sold for $7.2 million. Now, when that first came out, they printed hundreds of them. There were literally hundreds of them. I believe it came out in like a New York newspaper. So, there were thousands of them. And then today there are 14 of them, and that's over 100 and, 100 and, God, it was 1914, so it's 112 years ago or whatever now. Maybe in 112 years, these esports collectibles will shoot up in value. I think right now they're not going to make it. Do I think that the valuation is correct? I want to say yes. I think that this, like, well, like something between 50 to 70, maybe 30 to 50, because like, the Super Bowl rings that are selling for like $20,000 out there at the moment. I think that's a good price. I think I don't think it's going to sell. I don't think the market's there. I don't think people are that interested and invested yet. And I think it's probably a stunt from Bulldog. That's something that most people didn't point out. Like, I bet if you point at Lank asked him, he'd probably say yes, but also if someone put the bid in, I'd sell it. That's just my thinking. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's a smart guy. I think anyone who's been a streamer for that long knows a little bit about marketing and putting their brand out there. So Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's interesting. It's fascinating. You don't really. It's something you don't think about as much. Like how much of this stuff is out there. I think that to me that's so interesting because um, there's probably someone who knows how many uh championship rings they've given out. As I say, I think it's in the 80s. I think it's something like that because it's 14 editions of TI plus some coaches and maybe some sixth players. And I think that the people that have it, it's probably something like 55, 56, um, maybe a little bit more people. And when one of these comes out and gets shown off, it is fascinating. I think they should show them off more. That's another thing, like like complete tangent. I think that players should ball out with them a bit. And I know the other problem is that, in theory, they are worth tens of thousands. So, like, when's the occasion to go out with it? Like, I mean, are Team Spirit doing this? Are like Team Spirit like balling out in clubs with like getting the whole, you know, 3 championship rings on and going out like they're Deion Sanders or something? Like that would be sick. Um, but I don't think that's happening. I don't think this is selling. Well, good luck to you, Bulldog, if you do want it to sell. What do we got? It's Tuesday now. The auction ends on Saturday. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on this. If you like this, please keep tuning in. Maybe hit me with a subscribe. Maybe like this video. It really helps. I'm going to be trying to do some more of this this year. Trying to build a little bit more video content. So keep your eyes peeled. And thanks for listening to my rambling on this little news story. Thank you.